locked. Thank you. Vango, vango, vango. Whenever I say Vango, in my head there is, who is Vincent? How many of you got the joke? There is a guy named, painter named Vincent Vango. Oh, Kadi, yes. Let's start with Kadi. Hari Om. Happy Chinmaya Jayanti to all of you. So I have been speaking about the historic relevance. Just wanted to touch base because it is Gurudev's Jayanti. What was Gurudev's vision? What did he want? So that one of the aspects I will touch upon in today's discussion. One of the 108 names that which have in the folder, that which we chant of Puja Gurudev, is Jirna Mandirodharakaya Namaha. Jirna Mandira Uddharakaya Namaha. Jirna Mandira Uddharakaya Namaha. Mandira. Mandira means Devalaya. Right? Now these temples, Jirnam Gataha, they have become dilapidated. Why dilapidated? Several reasons. Amma, that open door, Amma, just listen. This side door, lock it to the upside. Amma, lock it up. Good. So that it will not be swinging out. Thank you. So Jirnam Gataha, dilapidated, destroyed. Uddharaka, somebody who has revived it, reconstructed it, re-established it. Uddharaka, to uplift it. Jirna Mandira Uddharakaya Namaha. Now the question is, these temples that were built in such a way that they would last for a long time. They are not like these buildings which are Lakshagriha. Well, literally these are Lakshagriha. You light a lamp, ayoyo. Light an agarbatti, ayoyo. Why? A little spark from somewhere, nothing will stand. I'll tell you my eye-opening experience, 2002. See, we all have different sets of vasanas, right? Different kinds of talent, skills, all of that is vasana. One of my very prominent vasana is construction. I have been actively engaged in at least about 25-30 Chinmaya Mission buildings all across. So far, I have that itch to construct, design and things like that. So the very first 2 months that I came, I was asking about what is this material, what is that material. So there was one board member who was also into construction business. He took me to his construction site. After seeing that construction site, I could not sleep for 2 weeks. Why? Because the sense of apparent security through the house that I am living in was completely lost. What will this wooden frame and sheetrock provide me security with? One kick, everything can be dismantled. Right? But those temples are not like this. How many of you have seen, okay, let's start from down south. Kanyakumari temple, Padmanabha Swami Tirunanthapuram temple, Kanchi Kameshwari temple, Kamakshi temple, sorry, Trichy Sri Ranganatha temple, Kedarnath, Kedareshwar, Nepal Pashupatinath, Assam Kamakhya, Gujarat in Dwarkadish, Srinathji temple. When you go watch those temples, Jagannath Puri, Jagannath temple, when you watch all these temples, there are huge complexes. One of them that I'll take for an example is the Brihadishwaralayam in Tanjavuru. The sadness is we write Tanjavur in English and pronounce it in English. Who does it? Tamilians do it. What is the actual pronunciation of that uru? Tanjavuru. And then we write it in English as a Tanjore. It is not Tanjore. But the Tamilians coming from Tamil Nadu, it is like Tanjore painting. It is not Tanjore painting. It is Tanjavur painting. Oh, what's in a name, Swamiji? The person who was talking to me that day was bald. Poda motte. I said, motte means somebody who is bald, but in a. Said, what is in the name, right? I said, okay, I get the point. I said, back off. When a point is being made, don't just dilute it by saying something stupid. So, Tanjavuru, Brihadishwaralaya. How many of you have seen it? From the time that it was built up until now, at least in the known history, recorded history, in the last 50 or 60 years, in that locality there have been 4 major earthquakes. 4 major earthquakes where the recently built buildings have fallen down. Tall buildings, big buildings, they have fallen down. But that particular temple complex, built in few acres, not a single piece of stone has moved or swayed. Not a single stone has developed a crack. Even a crack. And the most amazing thing is, that entire edifice does not have cement or mortar or any binding agency. And you go into that structure, you will not feel insecure. You feel most secured. How many of you had the sacred opportunity to climb all the way up to the Shikhara? Anybody? I had the opportunity to climb all the way up. In the steps as you are going up, there are carvings of Bharatanatyam Shastra. 108 different mudras have been very artistically, articulately carved. Side piece of information. Once you go up, there is the Shikhara. When we travel, when I go to India, we are usually 7-8 sadhus, sannyasis of Chinmaya Mission, we travel. At least 4 of us were there. I am the shortest among all of them. Among that group of 7 or 8, I am the shortest. The rest of them are 1 to 3 inches taller than me. That's a good group to be in. I always have so many to look up to. So 3 of us lie down, like my head and their feet, 3 of us lie down, and there was still a space for the 4th one to walk by us without jumping over us. Around the Shikhara, that much space is there. To give you an idea, if there is, the Indian ambassador car, if somehow were to be taken up there, you can rotate it around continuously without being stopped by the edges of that Shikhara. That much space is there. Because we see it from down up, it feels small. But there's a really big hall, huge space there. And that Shikhara is a humongous monolith, like one single piece of rock carved. It is 800 tons or 8,000 tons, one of those. I am not very sure about the number. 80 tons, 80 tons. And the design, they say that it was carved after being placed up there. It was pushed. Few miles from there, it was like, there was a ramp built, and then it was dragged all the way up. Because of that, the interlocking stones that have been arranged underneath as the edifice, because of that center of gravity, so they understood the stones, they understood center of gravity, they understood the effect of the weather and other elements. And as a side note, they also made sure that never ever throughout the year does the Shikhara, the shadow of that Shikhara ever falls on the floor. Kabhi bhi nahi. They have designed it such a way. And once you go inside the temple in the Garbhagriha, the Sanctum Sanctorum, and see that Shiva, like it is nicely named, appropriately named, Brihad Ishvara. Brihad Ishvara meaning the one who is bigger than the biggest. You will literally feel that is how huge it is. Every single temple from Setu Himachala Paryanta. Setu is the bridge that was built by Rama, Bhagavan Rama. to the Himachala in the Himalayas. Every single edifice and structure was built to last. Even the vigrahas that were carved as the main deities are at least a few thousands of years, like 4,000-5,000 years old. And they still are radiatingly beautiful, amazingly beautiful. Now, what happened to those temples? See, when you go into the northern part of India, most of the temple structures have been. How many of you have been to Kashmir, Jammu, Anantnag, Sheshanaga? You've been. Vaishno Devi. When you go into these other suburbs in that Himalayan beauty, there is one amazing Surya temple. It's called the Martanda temple. There are 3 famous Surya temples in India. Only one of them is a functional one right now. Do you know the other 2? One I already said. Konark, non-functional. There is no puja that happens, right? See, this temple that I am talking about is purely dedicated to Surya, not as a graha, but as Surya Narayana. So, the Surya Narayana Mandir in Pushkar in Rajasthan, which is functional. The Martanda temple of what is left behind today, if you look at it, when you stand outside this building, you look up, you have a size idea, right? Whatever is the height of this building, Chitrakoot, right in the front entrance here, it will be at least about 4 to 5 times taller than this, all built in stone. It is completely ruined. Alauddin Khilji took 3.5 months time to destroy it, with his entire army trying to pull brick by brick, stone by stone. If you look at what is left behind, it is like your jaw drops. If the ruins is that beautiful, can you imagine how beautiful the actual temple might have been? Now, what happened to these temples? They were systematically destroyed because the idea was they understood that there are 2 hubs of center of nerve for the Hindu. One is the Gurukulas, the universities, and the second one is the temple complexes. I have already explained what a Gurukula means, especially if it is a Mahavidyalaya, what kind of an edifice that it was. Have I not spoken about the Mahopadhyaya? Yes, no? See, a quick translation of Mahopadhyaya is somebody who is a dean of a university. Who was given that title of being a Mahopadhyaya? First and foremost, the one who had several acharyas, the one who could teach different stream of knowledge and wisdom. How many acharyas? At least 1,000 system of acharyas. Each one of them capable of teaching at least 1,000 students. That adhyapaka or acharya could have upa acharyas, and each acharya could have at least minimum of 10, maximum of 100 upa acharyas. Okay, number of students, number of upa acharyas, and streams of knowledge and wisdom, and on the top is sitting the dean. The one who can provide shelter, food and education for this kind of a system was called Mahopadhyaya. Like that, there were at least about 42 known university systems that have been destroyed. We only keep hearing about and Takshashila and Nalanda. There are at least about 42 such huge. They destroyed that. They destroyed the temple complexes. So what Gurudev said as a solution is to rebuild that temple system. I'll pause there and I'll connect it to our lives. So there will be certain questions that I'll ask, simple questions. Please try to answer them. Do you think that you are in a generation of Hindu Indians here who can be considered as affluent, well established, secured, financially secured? So first set of questions done. Second set. Do you know where your ancestors come from? There must be a village somewhere, right? Do you know which village that you belong to? Sometimes we are blessed to have it in names. Like, Melkote. Melkote is a names place. When in my Purva Ashrama, my last name was my village name. So most of us know where we come from, our villages. Villages have two temple systems usually. One is called Grama Devata. Grama Devata is usually a Shakti who is invoked to protect that particular village. And the second one is Devalaya. Usually there is Shiva or Vishnu or Rama or Devi or whoever it is. There is a Pramukha Devalaya. Every village has a temple. Every village has a Grama Devata protected. The way Gurudev rebuilt several temples. In fact, when you go across north to south, east to west in US, about 85% of the temples that are built in US, Gurudev has either done the Shankusthapana or the Shikhara Puja of all these temples. You go to Meenakshi temple, right? Ask them for their archives. You will see that their Shikhara Puja is being done by Puja Gurudev. After his quadruple bypass surgery, he flew down to do that Shikhara Puja. Kedarnath, Badrinath, Tungnath, there are 5 main Shiva temples there. All of them were reconstructed after independence, and it was Gurudev's effort when they were sitting down, especially in the Badrinath temple. The walls surrounding it had already dilapidated, fallen down. The roof was in cracks. It's extreme temperatures there. Like it goes winters minus 40 Celsius, and in summers it goes all the way to 40 degrees Celsius. It goes swings. So the stones, it had to be reconstructed. So in that gathering for that particular temple reconstruction, Gurudev called for that meeting. The main priest is called Raval. So he called upon that Ravalji, who is from Kerala. He is an appointee, a brahmachari appointee from Kerala who lives there and performs the puja in the most inhumane conditions. But he is dedicated. So he called upon the Ravalji and he said, for the reconstruction, this is in way back late 70s. Late 70s or mid 70s. So in that meeting he said, from Chinmaya Mission 10 lakhs. So the trustee who shared this story with me, he said, Swamiji, not to tell you a fact, in Chinmaya Mission we did not have more than 1.5 lakhs. Now this Swamiji goes and says 10 lakhs donation. Where do we get the funds from? So I was protesting while coming back from that meeting for the reconstruction of Badrinath temple, saying like, this is wrong. How can you go promise 10 lakhs? So he said, Gurudev said, it seems. See, in that meeting, there were the 4 Shankaracharyas. There were these different Vaishnava traditions, those who have been there for almost 300, 200 years, Sampradayas. They were all there. They are well established people. When they see that a new group called Chinmaya Mission is ready to donate 10 lakhs, now they are all in a cornered condition wherein they have to now pay either 10 lakhs or more. There are at least about 70 organizations that participated, and if these 70 organizations can come forward with 10 lakhs, we have a Bhavya Mandira and the entire pathway on Alakananda up until there, everything reconstructed. So he said, no, where do we get 10 lakhs? That we will have to go find the resources. So he found the resources and he gave it within the end of the month. 10 lakhs were raised and given, and in a year and a half, the entire temple structure as we see today was constructed. Jirna Mandira Uddharakaya Namaha. If that was the vision of the master, now connecting it back to when you go back to your native, wherever you are from, north, south, east, west of Indian peninsula, when you go to your villages, do you go to your villages? Thank goodness. You should. Identify which is the Grama Devata, which is the Devalaya. Identify also people that have come from that village who are well settled and established all across the globe. Identify, create an Excel sheet. Contact them. Reconstruct that original beauty of those temples and construct it in such a way, raise the funds in such a way that its maintenance is taken care of for quite a near future. Can that be done? Should that be done? Okay. Now when we say temple has to be rejuvenated, it is not just the Brahmana that is getting benefited. The temple reconstruction happens because of several factors. The temple architect is called Sthapati. Dying art today. I have shared my experience of times when I had walked as a brahmachari bhikshatana in the entire south. Near Mailavaram in South Tamil Nadu. What is Mailavaram also known as? Mayavaram. Thank you. There is beautiful temple there. And from there very close by is the Kartikeya temple on the seashore. Tiruchendur? போயிட்டு வந்தேன் நான். So somewhere in between was this Sthapati's house. Right before that, my 12 size chappal got stolen, and you don't get those chappal in India. Very rarely you get. And it was rainy season, monsoon end season. So all stones and everything started piercing and pricking. Somewhere infection must have gotten in. High fever. I couldn't walk anymore. So one of the rules was I'll keep walking, come what may. I couldn't physically walk. So at a temple outskirts I was resting, and this gentleman comes and says, don't worry, please stay with me at my house. A complete stranger that I am. He has 2 daughters at his house, young children. And he has opened the doors for 2 strangers and took care of me to health in next 3 days. The amazing amount of details that he spoke about in the Agama Shastra is like etched in my head. He carved it in my head. Did you know that when the Sthapati goes to construct a temple, the main Aradhya Vigraha, if it is a Devata, they have to search for a granite piece of stone which is masculine. The stones also have a gender. There is a masculine stone, there is a feminine stone, and there is a neuter stone. The Devis are selected to be carved on feminine stones. The pillars and the roof are with the neuter gender stones. How do they select that? With a chisel and a hammer, they strike on that stone, and the sound vibration that it comes. Like for example, there is a coconut test that is done. Right? I don't know what to say this. You tap on it. The sound, if it comes like a shrill sound, then it is good. If it is a hollow sound, then it is not a good one. So when I go to the Indian stores for collecting, so I am doing this test. The brahmacharis with me, one of them is like, I don't know what he's doing, Because usually the mindset is you just pick and come. I am like very specific. No, this is not right. You, Swamiji, you should just pick it. No, why? I have the skill to understand which one is right, which one is not right. So similarly, I test on the stone to find which is masculine, which is feminine, which is neuter. He went into a lot of details. So Sthapati is one whole group. And each Sthapati has about 50-60 people working under him, those who can carve on the neuter gender stone, those who can carve on the masculine stone, those who can carve the intricacies on any stone. Even the kind of instruments used on different stones are different. So, sthapati system. Then there are those who have the skill, green thumb, to grow lot of flowering plants, and their job is to get those flowers and constantly, this is on the land which is owned by the temple. So all the flowers that come from there, they know which season, what kind of flowers, in what kind of combinations, when there is a Rathotsava, when there is a Kalyana, when there is, based on the calendar system, they grow the flowers, they pluck those flowers, that entire system of families that depend on that temple system. And in today's world, as you enter the temple, the left side and right side are completely occupied by these thatched roofs, selling all the trinkets. How many, like hundreds of families surviving on the temple. Then there are families that bring coconuts from nearby villages. They gather all those coconuts and make sure that it is available. So a temple system, if it is renovated, all these people are restrung back into the society with an economic structure supporting them. Jirna Mandira Uddharakaya Namaha is not just building an edifice and leaving it. You are providing a sturdy, financial, secure environment for several groups of agencies that depend upon and support the system, and the temple supports them back. Creating jobs becomes the natural output of it. Another dying aspect is nobody wants to be a priest anymore. About 10 or 12 years ago, no more than that, 13 or 14 years ago, I had gone to my ancestral temple, and the priest there was, at that time he was in his 70s, mid 70s, and his son, meaning he was in like 45s or 50s. None of his children took up to any Veda Patashala to learn. His distant cousin's son who stayed with him had picked up, learnt from him. So he was saying, at least as my responsibility, I have trained one more person to take care of this temple and what the temple needs. So I said, what about the generation after that? Because this fellow is already 50. There are young kids, but we do not have the financial stability or stamina to support them go to that Gurukula. So I said, how many are there? So I said, there were 5 of them. So they found the, because Veda Patashala also has to be to that particular Veda Shakha. So found that particular Veda Shakha, Veda Patashala, and I usually don't talk to my family that much, but that was one rare opportunity. I reached out and I said, guys, this is the need, this many have to be supported so that the next generation of them are ready, available to take up. Isn't that our responsibility? So when we say Jirna Mandira Uddharakaya Namaha, it is not just about a physical structure or something being built, because that structure is enlivened when there is this human system that is supporting it, enlivens that very deity that is living in there. That was the vision with which he worked. Several temples in Kerala. In fact, in Veliyanad, the temple that in mid-80s, it came to Gurudev's attention that that house, the maternal house where Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya ji was actually born, paternal house is in Kaladi. The maternal house is in Veliyanad. That was where Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya ji was born. So if you go to CIF, Chinmay International Foundation, Veliyanad, that very room in which he was born is still maintained as it was then. So that family of Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya ji, that lineage, they were putting that entire property with the house and an ambala. There is a, what do you call it? A temple, a Swayambhu temple there. With all that, they were ready to sell in mid-80s. So this information came to Gurudev. They said Chinmaya Mission is trying to promote the Advaita Vedanta, and Advaita Shiromani is Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya, and his property and his life and lineage people are now at a crossroads where they have to sell. So he said, ask them how much is it. How much ever it was, he paid 35% extra and said they would never have to beg for ever again. And then the whole place was reconstructed. And now that is aptly being used for foundation, where there is research, science. It has got now one of the biggest libraries of manuscripts. And the oldest manuscript that I have personally seen in that particular library is about 4,000 years old. Actually, it was like a slew of, there was this very senior Purohit of a particular temple that died, and his property, ancestral property, he gave it to his son. And his son was renovating that whole property. And in the attic, they found these manuscripts, tightly woven and very nicely kept, protected from light and everything. But when they started the dating of those manuscripts, it was written about 4,000 years ago, and that was being continued in this family. They were ready to dispose it off, and then it came to the attention of the person that cures these kinds of manuscripts. Overnight ran to that place, requested them to be donated, and it's an airtight cured system where all these manuscripts are kept. They are digitized, and further translations of it and work on it, research on it is being done in that place. Jirna Mandira Uddharakaya Namaha. Now that Gurudev did. Can we plan, act, gather that potential wherein that where our roots are from, can we start rebuilding it? It's a huge project. But that which you can now, because you have that stability to start off from. And I said, it is not just the temple that will get built, it is that many systems of people and skill sets that will get rekindled and enlivened. And that is how the entire culture, entire system gets revived. It is not just a temple that will come up, but it will be the entire processes that are involved in it get revived. All those skill sets will be reinstilled. So, the final point, that the temple is the hub of that particular society. Temple is a hub of that particular society. What kind of hub? Obviously, religious hub. Obviously, a spiritual hub. It was also the hub for the economy. It was also the hub for education, learning, and the promotion of fine arts. I'll go back to Brihadishwaralaya because that is huge and immediately. How many of you have seen it? Most of you have seen it. But it will be similar in most of the other temples as well. Even in Jagannath temple, that is how the whole structure is. As you enter into the building, into the temple complex, there are at least 5 different praharis that you cross, shikharas that you cross. After you cross the 4th one, there is a huge open alley, not alley, what do you call it? Open grounds. On the left hand side, you will see a huge stage. That stage is meant for Lalita Kala, fine arts, dance, folk dance, folk music, folk instruments, classical dances, classical instruments, martial arts. Kerala definitely has Kalaripayattu. In Tamil Nadu you have, what is that? Silambu. Stick. In Andhra, anybody Andhra? Karasam antaru. Even the martial arts, that becomes the place for learning, teaching and promoting. It is also the hub for learning the Vedic methods, where a teacher can teach to the next generation. So when you can plan, visualize all of these aspects, one on a level in different phases, the entire system gets rejuvenated, entire society gets reconnected. Hope the comprehensiveness is understood, and that is how Gurudev rebuilt several such edifices, reviving that culture, tradition, ecology, economy in that particular locality. Jirna Mandira Uddharakaya Namaha. So we'll stop here. I know there is still time, but today I'll take a break. A healthy break. I need a breather. Om Shant Shant Shantihi Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.